This is Football Night in America, served by Applebee's.
Mike Tirico, Tony Dungy, Rodney Harrison, Mike Florio. Great to recap Sunday number 9 of the NFL season. We are getting past the halfway point, and I don't know how clearly the picture's coming together on either side of the coin. And maybe, guys, it all came together in that Seattle-Buffalo game because, Rodney, there was the thought maybe Seattle could be the best team in the NFC and Buffalo maybe going in a different direction. Do you walk out of this game feeling anything different about either one of those teams in terms of their long-term success this year?
Yeah, I look at Seattle, and offensively, we know what they can do, and Russell Wilson and all the weapons and DK Metcalf. But, yeah, it's the defense. The defense giving up big plays. We felt like when Jamal Adams came back that he would give him a spark. I felt like he did. But the problem is, in order to have a great defense and go far in the playoffs, you have to be able to rush the passer. And you're not going to always be able to bring your all-pro safety down and blitz him because now that leaves everyone one-on-one, and now you have single safety highs. So I just look at the defense, and Pete Carroll's going to have to continue to jump on those guys and get them playing good defense because if not, it doesn't matter what Russell Wilson does. I mean, he's going to have to throw 8 touchdowns a game if it keeps like this, Coach.
Yeah, and Seattle's going to have to get those running backs healthy, too. Yeah. When they're balanced and Chris Carson is pounding the ball, they're really tough to stop. But right now, they're one-dimensional. They're a throwing team that really is struggling stopping anybody, and they're playing all these high-scoring games.
And Mike Florio, Josh Allen had the better numbers, had the better game. And I know you spoke to Sean McDermott, the Bills head coach, specifically about his quarterback.
Yeah, Josh Allen's grandmother passed away on Saturday, and McDermott gave him the option to not play. Allen decided to play and had a huge game, was very emotional afterward. And I was a little confused after the game hearing from Pete Carroll. He got a contract extension, so I guess he can say something like this out loud. But it sounds like they completely miscalculated what the Bills were going to try to do. They expected the Bills to run the ball. That's what Carroll said. The Bills shredded them, shredded that defense that doesn't have a pass rush. Conversely, McDermott told me, look, Russell Wilson had 4 turnovers because they were able to put pressure on him and force him to make quick decisions, and they sacked him several times. It's just kind of a strange outcome for two teams that felt like they were moving in different directions. And now, every time we think we have something figured out, we realize we don't know anything.
That's exactly right. The first half numbers were 28 passes, only 3 runs by Buffalo, and that comes off of Buffalo running so much the week before against New England. And good for Buffalo. It shows that they can pick either game plan, either chapter out of the book, and bring it to the table and execute it.
Yeah, adjust and adapt and play to the weakness of the opponent, and that's what they did. They attacked that base 3-deep zone coverage by Seattle, and they just attacked it over and over and over again.
And then with what you saw Sunday night.
Go ahead, Tony. Hey, guys, Rodney. let's not forget about the Buffalo Bills defense. I thought they did a terrific job in the secondary. They came up with some picks. Jerry Hughes got pressure. A.J. Klein, he made a strip sack. So let's not forget about the defense. I know you guys are in love with the offense. Let's not forget about the defense, Mike.
All right, you got it. Message sent. You know where Buffalo goes this week? To Arizona. And they get to play Kyler Murray. And we saw Arizona play Miami, and it was Tua Tagovailoa in his second start against Kyler Murray. Those 2 young quarterbacks put on a show. And we talk about the young quarterbacks all the time, but as we see more of them and what they can do, it's such a dynamic, changed game right now.
It really is. And you see the field being spread. You've got to defend the whole thing. You've got to have guys spying them. And it just it was unique to see. And I think Brian Flores saw that, and he knows what he's got in his young quarterback. And so he made the change. And Ryan Fitzpatrick was playing well. So this wasn't a casual decision, but I think it's going to pay off for them. I see Tua just getting better and better and better as he gets that chemistry with his receivers.
Rodney, as you watch Tua here for a second straight start, you starting to like what he's got there?
Well, Mike, it was just a dramatic difference between game 1 and game 2. I mean, game 2, he came out like he was on fire, like he was at the University of Alabama. He came out with so much charge and control. He played with a lot of confidence. And even once he got outside the pocket, I'm holding my breath once he gets hit. And he gets hit and he gets back up and he's okay. And it kept happening. So I was just really excited for Tua and everything that he brings. And then let me just say this last point. These 2 young quarterbacks, along with Russell Wilson and some of the other quarterbacks, have really influenced our our youth. I mean, I go to football games and you see people walking around with Tua Tagovailoa jerseys. You see Kyler Murray jerseys. So it's really special what they're doing because they're giving a lot of kids that normally wouldn't probably be able to play, play quarterback, giving them hope. So
no, you're
really
right, Rodney. I got a son that's about 5'7" in ninth grade, and he thinks he's Baker Mayfield. He wants to be a quarterback.
It's great to see the way the college game, and I thought you made such a good point about Tony, just using the 53-yard width of the field is allowing those guys, whether it's throwing lanes or space or throwing on the run, spread football, counting the box, all those things. It really has changed the dynamic of pro football.
It has, and you're seeing these coordinators. How do I stop Kyler Murray? Who can spy him? And do I have to use a defensive back to spy him? And it really limits what you can do on defense.
Okay, I'm just going to double back to Miami for a second. Mike Florio, before you hop in, I'm just curious, Rodney and Tony, Miami's defense is starting to make big game-changing plays. They scored on defense early in the game for the second straight week, set the tone. Rodney, does that feel like a kind of a contagious defensive mentality that's starting to develop with this Dolphins team?
Well, they believe in Brian Flores, and it's funny because last week, Chris was pointing out the six-man pressure, and we would do that all the time when teams would come out in an empty formation, except the Colts. We didn't want to blitz them, Coach. But when teams would come out in an open formation, like an empty formation, we would cover, zero coverage, and we would go after the quarterback. We would not allow him to just have time to sit back there. And that's what I love about Brian Flores. He learned so much from Coach Belichick, plus he's adding a little bit of his own spin to it. And I think right now he is the coach of the year in the National Football League. I mean, who thought the Miami Dolphins would be competitive, let alone as good as they played? I know, Coach, the last couple of weeks you've been ranting and raving about the Miami Dolphins.
Well, I started thinking about Miami last year, and you're right. You talk about believing in Brian Flores. I actually spoke to them when they played in Tampa, and they weren't winning. But everybody in that room was focused in on Brian Flores. You could tell they believed in him. And when people were talking about tanking last year, and he got upset. He said, we're not tanking, we're improving. And they proved it this year.
It's funny you said that because Mike Florio is 54, 55 weeks ago, we were talking about them tanking for Tua. They didn't tank. They got Tua.
Anyway.
And now they're kind of in a position where they look like they could be a team that could sneak into the playoffs in the AFC, if not challenge the Bills at the top of the division.
And I would say that Tua's audition has gone extremely well.
Yeah.
Simon Cowell is putting him through to the next round, I think. And he doesn't have to worry about the Dolphins using the Texans pick, possibly in the top 5 on another quarterback. But that's one of the reasons why they got to see what this guy has. Right. Because every team wants their Peyton Manning. Coach, you know that. The guy that's going to be there for 15 or 20 years. The guy that's going to keep the coach and the GM and everybody else employed for 15 or 20 years. So you have to see if Tua's that guy. And if he is, great. If he's not, they hope the Texans lose as many games as possible so they can use that first-round pick to look at whoever may be available. But so far, so good with Tua, and there's a lot of reason for Dolphins fans to be excited.
Now, you mentioned the Colts there, and Indianapolis obviously is trying to win now. That's why Phillip Rivers is there. What'd you make, Rodney, of the Baltimore victory against Indianapolis, where Baltimore didn't really look all that good in the first half?
Well, if you're Baltimore, and Coach, you know this. I mean, even if you're, the Pittsburgh Steelers, sometimes you're winning, you're having success that year, and then you go into a game and you just don't feel up to it. You just don't play with a lot of energy. And that's what it seemed like happened out there today, Mike. Mm-hmm.
But good teams can win those type of games. Right. You're right. When you don't have it all together, you don't have your A game, but you find a way. And it was defense, takeaway. Lamar got it going in the second half. But that's the confidence that championship teams have. Indianapolis, they've got to get that. They don't have that. When they're not right on top of everything, it's a struggle.
Mike, you spoke to John Harbaugh?
Yeah, and Harbaugh said that's what he's focused on, telling his players, play winning football. Don't get caught up in if a game doesn't go your way. And I think they firmly believe they outplayed the Steelers last week. I think anyone who watched that game would come to that conclusion. They get a crack at them on Thanksgiving night. You guys know that well. You'll be there. But Harbaugh knows they've got games in between then. They've got the Patriots this week. He's leery about the Patriots. He told me he's got a young team. So he has to stay on these guys constantly and remind them what they're up against and just focus on, as he said, playing winning football. My favorite stat of the day, and I wasn't aware of this, The Ravens have set the record for consecutive games with 20 or more points. They've got 31 games. So that's a level of consistency that, because they're not a high-scoring, high-octane offense. They beat the Broncos record from 2012 to 2014, which was a high-octane offense, but they're going to show up and score their 20 every single week. And that's, I think, one of the benefits of having Lamar Jackson. He's going to keep you in every game.
And the key caveat with that is that's a regular season record. There's a postseason stop to that record and that run. And that's one of the reasons we keep seeing them try to throw it a little bit more. And it's all that whole finding an identity and who you are. And if somebody can take it away, which the good teams can, do you have a plan B to go to? So it's going to be fascinating to watch them. Let's hit the speed round here, guys. We talked about Pittsburgh there in the same breath with Baltimore. Pittsburgh's still the only undefeated team in the league. Tony, any red flags for the Steelers in the game in Dallas?
Yes, that was a disappointing game to me. They didn't come out and play well, and Mike Tomlin's going to have to get this. This is a young group, and they've got to amp it up and play well every single week, not just win the games, but play well.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, just seeing Ben over this season, not having training camp, not having any OTAs, I think he looks phenomenal. But when he runs, he looks like he's 75 years old. He looks like an old man. And just from the looks of their backup quarterback situation, maybe Ben Roethlisberger shouldn't run as much as he has been, because if they lose him, they have no chance to get to the Super Bowl.
Today's game reminded me of the first 3 games of the season where they barely beat inferior teams, and we really didn't know what to think about the Pittsburgh Steelers until they pummeled the Cleveland Browns. So, they're a team that can play up and down to the level of the competition. They still won, but Mike Tomlin acknowledged after the game, it's not going to continue if they continue to live on this edge week in and week out.
Kansas City won. Mahomes is 25 touchdowns, 1 interception here in the first 9 games as they hit their bye. Rodney, any red flags for the Chiefs because they were in a tight game with a 500-ish team, a little below now in the Carolina Panthers?
It happens, Mike. I mean, these other guys get paid too, so you expect them to come out and get their very best and be competitive and compete with the Chiefs. So, no, I look at the Chiefs as still the best team. I think the Chiefs are the best team in the National Football League, not just the AFC, but on the NFC side, because Patrick Mahomes is that guy. And, he's the best player in the league. I mean, how could Kansas City not be at the top? I mean, they just have so much offensively.
He really is. He's outstanding, and he's playing on fire, not turning the ball over. But I'm concerned about that defense. The Raiders game, they came with all these all-out blitzes. The Raiders picked them apart. Teddy Bridgewater had a big game today, and I don't think you can live on that Mahomes is going to be sharp every single week and put that kind of pressure on. They've got to start playing better defense.
Travis Kelce told me after the game that they don't believe they've been as dominant as they can be. And one of the reasons is every team they play is treating it like the Super Bowl. So you have to be locked in and focused each and every week. I mean, this was a measuring stick for the Panthers. It's not a measuring stick for the Chiefs, but the Chiefs still found a way to win it.
Yeah, and what I was thinking, too, is, I mean, we sit back and, how good do we really think the Chiefs' defense is? I mean, last year, they got on a roll, they got hot, and really stepped up for their offense. But when I look at that defense, I don't think that defense is like a top 5 defense. I think it's a very solid defense, and if they get a lead, then that defense is capable of doing some things, blitzes, they got pass rushers. But I just think that this is a defense that's built to play from ahead. And that's what they've been doing.
No question. And you're right. I believe you're right. They are the best team in football because I don't think we have complete teams.
No, all the way around. Even Pittsburgh undefeated. You've mentioned that a couple times. Lastly, guys, is there a team that struggled early in the season who could be dangerous here later in the season?
Vikings.
Stop it. Stop it.
Vikings.
What?
Come on, Mike. Are you kidding me?
Rodney?
You see Dalvin Cook the last 2 weeks?
Rodney,
Come on, you got to get pumped up about him, Mike.
Rodney, doesn't he have over 200 yards from scrimmage in back-to-back weeks, Dalvin Cook?
And, Mike, just looking at the offensive alignment and how they respond when he's running the football, the defense, the secondary. Come on, Mike Florio. How could you not be a believer?
Right.
Because here's what will happen. They'll get to 5-5, 6-5, 7-5, and then it all falls apart. I've seen this movie enough times.
They are a different team, though. When Dalvin Cook plays, he helps Kirk Cousins so much. He helps the defense. He keeps the time of possession. But I'm going to say Miami Dolphins. Miami didn't look great early in the season. Gotten better and better and better. And look out for them in the second half of the year.
By the way, Mike Florio was talking about Minnesota. They play Chicago, Dallas, then Carolina and Jacksonville at home. They really do have a chance to get on a run here and get to 7-5 and set up a December to remember for Florio, which would be great. By the way, give Atlanta a nod. Give Atlanta a nod. They've won 3 out of 4 with Raheem Morris as their interim coach.
It could have been 4 out of 4 if Todd Gurley takes a knee at the 1-yard line.
Against Detroit.
Raheem would be undefeated.
Exactly right. All right, that's Sunday 9 for you. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you.
Let's go Vikings.
What a nice guy Rodney Harrison is. Never let you forget. See you next week. Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.